Come on, mate. Here he comes. Wally's always got something to share. So encouraging. I'm just patting while he runs up here. All right. So you've used 20 of your 30 seconds already. We've got to get you healed.
Thanks. I was just sitting there and the Lord said to me, it's never, ever too late to sow a seed. Anyway, Jan and I went and did some legal papers with the JP the other day, and for some unknown reason he started to tell us all about his life, and it was a mess. And Jan says, well, we can pray over that. So we did. We asked him, could we pray over it? So we said a prayer over and took authority over all the enemy, the whole bit. And when we'd finished that, I said to him, now you've been in such a good mood and praying. I said, would you like to accept Jesus? And he said, yes, I would. So he accepted Christ. It is not hard to sow a seed, in season or out of season. Paul tells us in the Word, do it in season and out of season.
Thanks, Wally. That's awesome. Fantastic. Has anyone else got something they'd like to share? Thanks. Ryan?
Just a real quick one. We had prayer. Shamar and I were here on Thursday before we went to Gympie. Went to a school up there and we were talking to the kids. And it was awesome just to encourage these kids. It's very similar to Nambour Christian College just here. Christian school, but with a limited number of Christian kids. And it was awesome to talk to these kids who weren't Christians, who had all these crazy questions, trying to stumble us and trick us and all these sort of things. So just want to encourage everyone and thank everyone for their prayers.
Good on you, Ryan. Wow. Is this super loud? It sounds super loud up here. Okay, one more. Angela.
Thank you, Pastor Fit. I have a testimony to say. My ex, he was out of the office, like he's a lawyer back in Papua New Guinea, in the province that we went, and he was the provincial legal advisor. 2017 October, when I left him, when he checked me out of the house, he was locked out of the office, and it was like politically, the member that was elected to the province locked him out of the office since 2017. And because of he's a public servant, government appointed employee, that's why he had to be on the salary. And I was praying that he must not be on the salary because my children are with him. So last week, he had to write to the state that they must reinstate that administrator for the province, and he can go back to the office. And the court declares that that administrator must go back, and he will be in the office. So on Thursday, they had to lock the office and everything, and the other administrator, the police had to move him out because he was politically in the office. It wasn't government-appointed position. So anyway, they locked him, and my ex and the administrator, they moved in. And yesterday morning, my daughter messaged me and said, Mom, pray for us. We are under threats. The former administrator was a Highlander, and in PNG, the Highlands, they fought with knife and guns and all this. So, we were scared. They were scared. And I didn't have peace, so I had to call Marlene and said, Marlene, please, can you pray with me right now? My children's life, they are with their father. So the threat is issued to their father. So my children are with him. So Marlene prayed with me, and in the night, I didn't sleep. At 10, I had to call her and ask, are you guys safe? And she said, Mom, we are safe. The police are patrolling our streets, and we are safe. So I said, thank you. God answers prayers.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay. Well, last week Trevor gave an unsolicited advertisement to The Chosen, which is on Prime. And while I'm not in the business of making Jeff Bezos any richer, Prime also has got a new series called The House of David. Has anybody been watching it? Yeah, it's really good too. Like the detail that they go into is actually pretty cool. And so that's kind of inspired today's message. So I wanted to preach on David and Goliath because of the House of David. And spoiler alert, it's not finished yet. If you do start watching it, they're releasing an episode every week, every Thursday. So there's 5 out there for you to binge watch, and then you have to wait for the next one. But I'm gonna give you the end of the story today if you've never heard of it. But look, suffice to say this, that in every story in the Old Testament, particularly Exodus, but also other ones, like when Elijah was on Mount Carmel, and in particular this one, David and Goliath, these Old Testament stories provide a metaphor for us. They provide like an allegory that we can see and we can follow the example of these people in our spiritual life. So in every element of this story, I want to show you something that is relevant in your life, that is similar, if you like a metaphor for it. So I'm going to start with 1 Samuel 17. Now, there's a lot of Bible in this, and I'm not going to apologize because it's awesome. Alrighty, here we go. 1 Samuel 17. I'm going to read just the first 16 verses because it's exciting, just to build the tension. It says, "Now the Philistines had gathered their forces for war and assembled at Soko in Judah. They pitched camp at Ephes Dammim between Soko and Azekah, and Saul and the Israelites assembled and camped in the valley of Elah and drew up their battle line to meet the Philistines. Now the Philistines occupied one hill and the Israelites on another hill, with the valley in between them. A champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits and a span." Now, to give you some perspective on that, it's about the height of a basketball hoop, close to 10 feet. All right, it's pretty tall. He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor of bronze weighing 5,000 shekels. I forgot to Google how heavy that is, but it's a lot of shekels. So on his legs he wore bronze greaves, and he had a bronze javelin was slung on his back. His spear shaft was like a weaver's rod. And I'm not sure, I've never seen one, but it sounds big. And its iron point weighed 600 shekels. His shield bearer went ahead of him. Goliath stood and he shouted at the ranks of Israel, "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he's able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us." And then the Philistine said, "This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other." Well, on hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. Now David, he was the son of an Ephrathite named Jesse, who was from Bethlehem in Judah. And Jesse had 8 sons, and in Saul's time, he was very old. Jesse's 3 oldest sons had followed Saul to war. The firstborn was Eliab, the second was Abinadab, and the third was Shammah. Anyway, David was the youngest. The 3 oldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to tend his father's sheep at Bethlehem. You'll have to watch the show to figure out why. So he was basically called into the service of King Saul to play his harp, and that was before the whole David and Goliath incident. So he was already sort of running back and forth from Bethlehem to Jerusalem, which wasn't all that, well, not Jerusalem, but was the stronghold of the Philistines that they had taken over. Anywho, for 40 days, the Philistine came forward every morning and evening and took his stand. All right, so picture this. In verse 8 we read, Goliath is down in the valley. The Philistines are on one hill, Israelites on the other. Goliath walks down the valley and he calls out to the Israelites to come down, face me. Come on, I'll fight you. Point is this. I think all of your most significant battles in your life happen in the valley. We were just talking about that. Thelma was just sharing about, valleys is also where the streams are, however. We'll get to that later. But most of your significant battles happen in a valley. Think of the metaphor. The hill is where you're safe. That's fine up there. It's great. It's like being all dressed, ready for battle in church, and you're going, yeah, woo, Jesus, woo, I love it, yeah, and you're feeling all pumped because you've worshipped the Lord and you're great, but really the valley's out there. The battlefield isn't in here. This is the hill. That's the valley outside where you go to work tomorrow or when you go to school tomorrow, wherever you are, that's the valley. And it's significant because the valley represents two things, both of which the devil wants you to be afraid of, both of which he wants to intimidate you from going, because they are both absolutely essential for you to fulfill your potential and your purpose and to be who God was created you to be. And the first thing that the valley represents is your personal growth challenges, and the second is your mission field. Your personal growth challenges, again, I think Pete quoted Psalm 23. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, it's a valley that, you might have to face death once. One of the testimonies we had yesterday at men's breakfast was from Bungie. And you'll remember, it wasn't that long ago, 6 months ago or so, that he was in that valley and the doctor gave him 3 days to live. And he faced it like a champion. He just went, well, can't live forever, I'm up for it. And then God healed him, right? But there's also other valleys. The valley of financial hardship, the valley of stress, the valley of relationship breakdowns, the valley of sickness, depression, anxiety. There's all these valleys that we face in our lives. And God's saying there is a victory to be won down there. There is something you can do. And again, we'll get to that in a minute. But Goliath, he's representing that fear that is confronting you that you don't want to face. So ask yourself, what is my fear? What is my neurosis, if you like? If you're not sure, ask your wife or your husband. They'll tell you. What is it that's stopping you from fulfilling your full potential? From fulfilling the purpose God has created you to be? Where do you need to grow in your life? Because you have to face it. You have to face it. I've got stuff that I have to face. And again, my family's if we're being honest, my family's the one that will say, hey, that's it there. They can see what you can't. They live with you, right? That's what Goliath is down there challenging you. He's representing that. And he always uses intimidation, doesn't he? And he looks way too big for you to beat. It always looks like, oh, nah, I can't. That's too hard. No, look, how about we just sweep that one under the carpet? No, I don't think I could do it. No, it's just easier to just grit my teeth and bear it. That would be easier. That's what he wants you to think. And when it says that he came out every day for 40 days, the number 40, sorry to disappoint, is not always literal. It's like many things in the Hebrew language. There's a lot of symbolism, a lot of, and 40 is one of those numbers. Like 1,000 is one of those numbers. God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills doesn't mean that he's limited to 1,000. He actually owns a lot more, And 40 days represents a long time. So he was coming out, and the point is this, that, it turns out Goliath, they believe, was descended from Anak, which was rumored to be part of the Nephilim, right? These giants. And that was way back when the 12 spies came into the land. Again, Pete, in your communion message, you're talking about the judges. Even before the 300 years of judges, this happened way back when the spies came into the land and they saw these giants and they were scared and intimidated. So this fear was cultural. This fear had been there for a long, long, long time. And your greatest blockages to your potential have been the ones that have been there a long, long time. Probably back to your childhood, in fact. But God has not given you a spirit of timidity, right? 2 Timothy 1:17 says, he's given you a spirit of love and power and a sound mind. You're not going crazy. He's given you a sound mind. You have got the power. He's in you. He's in you. You got this. He'll give you the courage you need. But here's what I love about David. See, Goliath isn't just this massive blockage. Goliath's also a door. Goliath is an opportunity. I mean, hear what he even said. He said it himself out loud. If you kill me, I will be subject, we will all be subject to you. He'll be dead. But the rest, if you kill me, we'll be subjects of yours for the rest of your life. Point is this, again, metaphorically, that thing that you fear could become subjected to you. It becomes your subject for the rest of your life. That's why Romans 5, verse 3-4 says, we glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. If there's a challenge there, this is an opportunity for me to grow, for me to get stronger. James chapter 1, verse 2-4 says, consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. Whenever you go down into the valley, whenever you face that thing, whenever you take it on, consider it joy because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So in other words, if you can face this thing, if you have got the guts to get down there in the valley and go at it, you will beat it and then you will be missing nothing. You'll be complete, mature, not lacking anything. That's what he wants for your life. That's who you were created for. But from the moment you were born, Goliath turned up and started yelling insults at you. But if you can win dominion over him, if you can win dominion over whatever's challenging you, it'll be subject to you for the rest of your life. But that brings me to my second point, which is walk the walk, don't just talk the talk. So back to the story. We're now in verse 17. So 1 Samuel 17:17. Now Jesse had said to his son David, so this is one of David's home trips. He's stopped playing the harp for Saul, gone home, looked after his sheep. And Jesse says to him, take this ephah of roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread for your brothers and hurry to their camp. Take along these 10 cheeses to the commander of their unit. You know, I have no metaphor for that. I have no idea why the commander's got cheese and his brothers get a loaf of bread. Whatever. You'd think you'd have half and a half for everybody, right? You know, ever heard of a cheese platter? Not at this point in time. See how your brothers are doing and bring back some assurance from them. They are with Saul and all the men of Israel in the valley of Elah fighting against the Philistines. David's probably, I know. Anyway, early in the morning, David left his flock. Remember, David's 15 years old at this point. David left the flock in the care of another shepherd. He loaded up and set out, and as Jesse had directed. He reached the camp of the army, as the army was going out to its battle positions, shouting the war cry. Right? Remember, they're up on a hill. The Philistines are up there. So they go to battle positions, everybody line up on the hill, and they shout, rah, rah, rah. Israel and the Philistines were drawing their lines and facing each other. David left his things with the keeper of supplies, and he ran to the battle lines and asked his brothers how they were. As they were talking with him, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, stepped out from his lines and shouted his usual defiance. Remember, he's been doing this a long time, right? But this is the first time David's heard it. And David heard it. Whenever the Israelites saw the man, they all fled from him in great fear. Wow. You know, I quoted that verse from Timothy. God has not given us a spirit of timidity. Clearly, David did not have a spirit of timidity. He runs to the battle line. Typical 15-year-old. I reckon... I had a 15-year-old once upon a time, and let me tell you, they love the whole army thing. All teenage boys love the army thing. Am I right, Jake? Yeah. I just want to join the army, and then I'll be like Rambo. They love it, right? Because they have no idea what it's actually like, but they, at least, I've played the video games, and it's pretty cool, So that's what I want to do. So he runs up to the battle line, and clearly he did not perceive his brother's fear or anybody's fear. He's just like, woohoo, let's go. So he's talking to them as if they were not afraid. How are you guys going? Dad wants to know, how you doing? Hey, how many guys have you killed? How many guys have you killed? And he's talking to them about whatever. And my point is this, that sometimes we're like those brothers, and we've managed to hide our fears from everyone else. No one knows. Like, until I just told you before, hey, I've got some stuff in the valley, I should probably go down there and get sorted out. You might have thought, oh, Pete hasn't got any valleys. He's already looked after that. I'm hoping that's what you were thinking, because I thought I was really good at hiding it. But, and so I presume that David is thinking that, this is just what soldiers do. Like, oh, all right, so you go out and you shout, you shout at the enemy, across at the other hill, right? And he's thinking this is all good. They all look brave enough because he hadn't seen that fear exposed yet. He hadn't seen their reaction to Goliath yet. And I wonder again, do we sometimes look a bit like that army? Forever lining up and shaking our fist at the enemy and shouting, but actually too scared to go down to the valley and fight him. Jesus can heal. Yeah, Jesus will set you free. I mean, you, not me. I'm staying right here, thank you very much. I don't want to go down there. I don't want to face that thing that's in my life, that fear or that anxiety that's in my life. Sometimes we look like we've conquered our fears, but we don't actually have our acts together at all. Like Jesse, Dad, he actually said, yeah, go down there. They're fighting. He thinks they're fighting. But they didn't. They weren't. They just looked the part, right? And they even sounded the part. Sure. Like in church on a Sunday morning, yeah, oh, the enemy's been defeated. Yeah, and we're all talk sometimes, like the army was. But the battle's in the valley. It's not here on a Sunday. This is the hill. This is awesome. And hills are great. We need to come here every week. But we've got to also get down in the valley sometimes and conquer those fears, get it sorted so that we can be all God has created us to be. Amen. So, sooner or later, your fear will be exposed as the opportunity to confront Goliath presents itself. And sometimes that's in a very... not very convenient time, an inconvenient time. David's watching and he's there, and Goliath comes out and he watches them all flee. It says they all fled. Can you imagine David standing there watching his big brothers flee? What? I thought you guys were tough. You bullied me my whole life. Like, I thought, what's going on, right? And I want to say, if you are a seasoned Christian, if you've been a Christian a long time, the younger generation are watching you. They're watching how you deal with stuff. How do you deal with your anxieties? How do you deal with conflict? How do you deal with stuff that confronts you? Because I need to learn. It's called discipleship, right? So David, I imagine was a bit disappointed when he saw his brother's failure and run away, but fortunately his faith was not reliant on someone else's success, right? He had a close and personal relationship with God. He had experience with God, and so he still believes in God, not them. His faith isn't dependent on them. And I want to encourage you, if you are young, please don't put your faith in me or anybody else in this room. Put your faith in the Lord. That said, it is a fact, as unfortunate as this is, it is a fact that when somebody's a new Christian, first gives their heart to the Lord, they do connect with you, whoever their close friends are that are more mature. They connect with you. And for the first 2 or 3 years, they're kind of relating to God through you. So we see this a lot when a pastor, for example, commits adultery or rips the church off money or does something really stupid, right? And falls and gets sacked. Often people that have only been a Christian for a year or two will lose their faith because they're not at that point yet where they've got their own thing going on with God. They're still connecting through you. Point being that if you're that older Christian, don't do anything stupid. Amen? Everybody say, I won't. All right, that's good. So anyway, Goliath is there and he looks overwhelming and all that. But fortunately, I don't know if you picked it up the first time I read it, but there is another factor in this whole equation, and that is the reward for winning. The reward for winning. So David keeps his eyes on the prize. Listen to this. I'm going to keep reading. So this back in 1 Samuel 17, and now we're in verse 25. Now the Israelites had been saying, do you see how this man keeps coming out? He comes out to defy Israel. But the king will give great wealth to the man who kills him. He will also give him his daughter in marriage, and he will exempt his family from taxes in Israel. Woo! So David asked the men standing near him, excuse me? Say what? Like, what'll be done for the man who kills the Philistine and removes the disgrace? So who's this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of God? They repeated to him what they'd been saying and told him, this is what'll be done for the man who kills him. Well, when Eliab, David's oldest brother, heard him speaking with the men, he burned with anger at him and asked, why have you come down here? And who did you leave those few little tiny baby sheep in the wilderness with? I know how conceited you are, and I know how wicked your heart is. You came down only to watch the battle. Now what have I done, said David. Can I even speak? And he turned away and asked somebody else, and he brought up the same matter, and the men answered him as before. Do you know, as if the satisfaction of defeating your greatest fear wasn't enough, there is reward as well. Not just freedom from that oppression, but there is reward. In this case, he gets money, the girl, no tax, and we remember what Goliath said, I'll be subject to you, right? That we'll be subject to you for the rest of your life. He's so amazed that he has to ask twice because he's not sure he heard it right. So hang on, let me get this straight. Is that right? But look at verse 28, how Eliab responds. The older brother, now that his fear, his weakness has been exposed. It says he burns with anger just because his little brother said, what will be done for this? Are you saying that? That's incredible. What a great reward. But Eliab is so incensed because his fear, his insecurities, his anxiety, his depression, whatever it is, has been exposed. He burns, it says, he burns with anger against anyone who dares to go where he didn't have the guts to go. It's an extreme reaction, to say the least, wouldn't you say? And he puts David down. He tries to humiliate him and reminds him that he's a nobody in charge of just a few sheep in the desert. He accuses him of being conceited, that proud and arrogant. He accuses him of being a coward and just a spectator. So he's attacking his heart, which is the main thing that God told David he had right. I look at the heart and yours is good. But his brother's attacking him. Occasionally that's going to happen, He's trying to make David feel worthless, probably because that's how he feels. And people do that. Sometimes if you've got the courage to go somewhere someone else hasn't got the courage to go to, their response may be to give you a hard time. What did David do? Just turned away. Like my mum used to say, just ignore them, son. Just ignore them. Just turn away. So just walk away. Don't come down to that level. Don't engage. Just get away from it. Don't let someone else's confidence threaten you either. Don't let someone else's insecurities threaten you, but don't let their confidence threaten you either. If you see someone who is doing well, cheer them on. It's going to be good for everybody. Cheer them on. So what's David's response to all this? Does he run back to daddy crying because his big brother was a meanie? No. He won't let that happen. He keeps his eye on the prize. He goes and he asks a third time. In verse 30, he says, one more time, hey, what's going to be done for this? He's incredulous. You're saying that I'm going to be rich, I'm going to get the girl, and in the show, The House of David, he's starting to fall in love with, we're in episode 5, and he's falling in love with one of Saul's daughters, and Michal, and he's thinking, so I get the babe as well and no tax? This is too good to be true. So he keeps his eye on the prize. Kind of reminds me of Jesus. Remember Jesus said, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. How do you endure the valley? How do you endure the fight that you have in front of you for the joy set before you? Imagine what it's going to be like when you win, and focus on that. 2 Corinthians 4, verse 17 says, for our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Keep your eye on that. Imagine your life when that insecurity's gone. Imagine your life when that fear, that depression, when that whatever it is that is stopping you or is holding you back. Imagine your life. Keep your eye on that. Keep your eye on that. That's what David did. Imagine what we would be as a church if we could just overcome any inhibitions and just share the love and grace. Go to the jar. Don't just grab one. Grab a handful and say, I'm going to see how many I can get done this week. Leave some for someone else. But, start to actually overcome some of those inhibitions. What do people think of me? Oh, don't worry about that. Just let's go into the valley and have a crack. So are we going to be Eliabs or are we going to be Davids? Let's move along. So this is the fourth point. Embrace your training. Okay, so I'm verse 31. It says, when David said, what David said was overheard and reported to Saul, and Saul sent for him. Remember, Saul already knows him because he plays harp for him. David said to Saul, let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him. And Saul replied, excuse me, that's not going to happen. You're not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, 15, and he has been a warrior from his youth. But David said to Saul, your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear comes out and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by the hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will just be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. And the Lord, here's the point, because the Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, oh, all right. I can just imagine King Saul in that moment. Go, the Lord be with you. The entire fate of Israel we're putting in this kid's hand simply because of his little speech just then. But I love the confidence that David has. And I want to say, don't mistake that for arrogance. He wasn't being arrogant. He was being confident in God. He knows it's impossible to kill a lion with your bare hands unless you're Tarzan. He knows you can't kill a bear. I saw a thing on Instagram the other day to show people think they could fight a bear. And it's in a cage. So they put this little thing on a stick, like a lolly, and they put it way up there. And this bear is literally 12 feet tall. Like you can't, this is Goliath. He knows, I can't beat a bear. Nobody can. But God can. But God can. See, in this part of the story, even Saul, his leader, didn't have confidence in him at first. So here's yet another opportunity for David to succumb to his fear and back away like everyone else. But, as much as he respected his leader, his faith wasn't in man, it was in God, because he had experienced God in the smaller areas of his life. So David had been faithful with his flock. He defended them against the lion and the bear. And I don't imagine that David, when he was looking after, can you imagine, like this is us, right, in our daily life, and, stuff isn't going right for us. Something's not good. And what do? We start whinging. Like if we were David, would we be like, how come, God, why do you let, these lions come and take Dad's sheep, It's not fair. I don't understand. I mean, what possible reason could God have, for putting me here and putting me in danger like this, and lions and bears coming and eating sheep? I'm not sure if bears eat sheep, but I'm not sure why bears are in the story. But anyway, and besides, I'm the anointed one. Like, I'm supposed to be the king. I'm just wasting my time in these dumb sheep and this dumb desert and stupid and hot. And so, I confess, I have said words similar to that at times. When things aren't going right in my little world, sometimes, we get uncomfortable and we spit our little dummy with Jesus. Am I the only one? No, look, I know I'm not, and because I know my superpower, which is being Mr. Average. That's my superpower. So if I'm feeling it, you're probably feeling it. There's a good chance, right? But David, he wasn't Mr. Average. This guy, no way. Every time something went wrong in his little world, he wouldn't tolerate it. Every time there was an issue, he'd sort it out. If there was a conflict, he'd sort it out. He wouldn't bury it. Every time something went wrong, he'd fix it. He'd go. If his world was threatened, he would go after it. And he didn't expect it to be easy. He went, like he says, when the lion turns on you, it's all well and good to throw a rock at a lion, make him let go of the sheep, and then you go pick up the sheep and walk away. Oh, it's not over, Red Rover. This lion's going to turn on. And when he does, I'm ready. And we've got to be ready too. Sometimes we just think, oh, Jesus, please make my life better, and expect that nothing's going to go wrong. That's not how it works. Just because I'm a Christian doesn't make my house impervious to Cyclone Alfred. Stuff goes wrong all the time. When it does, am I going to whinge or am I going to fight? Because David was a fighter. He goes, I don't expect it to be easy. God never said it would be easy. God never said, you know what? He never promised life would be easy for you. And if you've heard that preached, I'm sorry, but that's wrong. What he did promise was his presence. Yeah, but doesn't it say his yoke will be easy? That's not what it's talking about. He's meaning God's presence, God's call on your life will be a good fit. My yoke is easy. It fits well. But it's still work. It's still hard work. You still have to fight. He says, I will never leave you or forsake you. Joshua, go into the land. Oh, by the way, you're going to have to fight for it still, so be strong and courageous. But I'll be with you. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil because you're with me. It's all Jesus said. I will never leave you or forsake you. Surely I am with you to the very... That's the promise of God. So he still wants you to fight. So, like the older generation nowadays, it's very common for them to criticize the younger generation, saying they're just not resilient, But really, that's on us, right? We've got to train our people. We've got to teach our young how to fight, because it doesn't just get handed to you on a silver platter. No matter what the Instagram influencers try to tell you, it doesn't. We've got to learn how to fight like this guy did. So don't be a victim. Don't put up or tolerate anything less than God's will for your life. I love that verse in Matthew 11, I think it is, where he says, the kingdom of God advances forcefully, and forceful men take hold of it. That's David. He's the aggressor. He's not the victim. He's the aggressor. That's who you should be. You're the aggressor. Go get him. Get down in that valley. Say, right, I'm going to fix this once and for all. Mum and Dad were like this, and that's given me these particular neuroses, so I'm going to sort that out. I'm going to fix it. Amen? All right. So God had been preparing David in the desert, by the way. God prepared Jesus in the desert. God prepared Moses in the desert. He prepared Paul, Abraham. Even Joseph was in a desert of sorts, being in a jail cell. Basically, God will sometimes take you out, put you in a desert experience to train you for what he's got for you. In fact, David actually spent many years back in the desert after this event, because he was running from Saul. Again, God was preparing him to be a king after his own heart in the desert. So don't despise the day of small beginnings. That's Zechariah 4, if you didn't know that. And don't resist the call into the wilderness, because even Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, right? So that's okay. Learn how to fight. Number 5, your success gives glory to God. All right, this is now towards the end of the story. Saul dressed David in his own tunic. I'm in verse 38. Saul dressed David in his own tunic, and he put a coat of armor on him and a bronze helmet on his head. And David fastened onto his sword over his tunic and tried walking around, because he was not used to them. I can't go in these, he said to Saul. I'm not used to them. So he took them all off. Then he took his staff in his hand, chose 5 smooth stones from the stream and put them in the pouch of his shepherd's bag. And with his sling in his hand, he approached the Philistine. Meanwhile, the Philistine, with his shield bearer in front of him, kept coming closer to David. He looked David over and saw that he was little more than a boy, glowing with health and handsome, and he despised him. He said to David, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. "Come here," he said, "I'll give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals." And David said to the Philistine, "Will you come against me with sword and spear and javelin? But I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. This very day I'll give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel." Well, all those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands. Well, as the Philistine moved closer to attack him, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet him. Love that. Reaching into his bag and taking out a stone, he slung it and struck the Philistine on the forehead. The stone sank into his forehead and he fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. And David ran and stood over him. He took hold of the Philistine's sword, drew it from its sheath, and after he had killed him, he cut off his head with the sword. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran. And everybody said, "Woohoo!" How good's that? So here's the thing. God wants you to do well. He does want you to do well. But true success is to be all you were created to be, right? Or for us to be all we are created to be as a church. We're different. We're unique. We're us, right? So be yourself. Saul tried to dress David in his armor, which is fantastic. Thank you so much. That's really generous of you. Thank you, Saul. But, it's different. It didn't fit. That's not my thing. We're not like that. This is who we are. And that's okay. You're good. We're good. We're all good. Our mission might be the same from generation to generation, but sometimes the clothing changes, the methods change, the music changes. Swords and spears, great, they're cool. Every young boy loves that, But they're just not me, says David. I'm more of a sling kind of guy. Slingshot, that's my wheelhouse. Like, I'm just going to do me. 100%. You guys should carry swords. It looks great on you. I'm not that kind of guy. So I need to be loosey-goosey. I'll go get him. And the point is this. Whatever God's given you to do, he's trained you for. He's created you. Own it. Be you. Just be yourself. Like Wally asks everybody, you want to become a Christian? So, yeah, lots of people become Christians. You might not have the same personality as Wally. You just do you and let God use you. Let him shine through you. He wants to shine through you. I mean, don't be afraid. If it is just fear that's holding you back from asking the question, then knock that on the head and ask. But still be you. What's in your hand? How's God trained you? What's your personality like? That's what God wants to use. So in verse 42, it says Goliath, he despised David. He asked for a champion warrior, and instead they send a shepherd boy. So apparently he's insulted, which I do suspect is how the devil looks at you. He's insulted when you come up to him and say, "Yeah, I'm going to take you on," because in the name of God, I got this. I'm filled with confidence. So he tries to curse David and intimidate him with scary threats. So David just goes, "Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that at the end of the day. And he uses that same threat almost right back to you. The devil says, "Oh, feed your carcass to the birds and the animals." So that's what David says, "Oh, feed your carcass to the birds and animals." And I love that, right? But here's the thing. He knew God would give him the victory, but it wasn't about David looking great. It was about God looking great through him. And let me tell you, God can look great through you. God can look great through you. There's a reason Donna's so vocal. Because, she's been in the valley. She's fought a couple of Goliaths or 4 or more. And she's overcome. So it just comes out of her. She's always, yes, cheering us on. And, when you overcome those Goliaths, honestly, it changes your world. John 15:8 says, "It is to my Father's glory that you bear much fruit." I want you to bear fruit. I love it. I love it when you do well. When you win, God is glorified. Yep, he does. He resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. But humility isn't allowing your fears to dominate you. That's not humility. And it's not proud if you use your gifts to do your best. Pride is just a sense of arrogance and a sense of superiority. It's the same as the difference between, we were talking about it yesterday, with the difference between being judgmental and making judgments. People think, you're being judgmental. Well, no, I'm just making a judgment, Meth is bad. I'm not judging you. That's a judgment. Meth is bad, right? But judgmentalism would be, I'm better than you because I don't use meth. Now you've crossed a line. Don't become superior. And David wasn't feeling superior. He wasn't saying, you guys are all a bunch of idiots. I'll show you how it's done. He was just incensed that the devil was shouting these curses and stuff. And he's got, I'm just going at it. I'm going to go get him. And so he did. He'd experienced the hand of God, and he knew what is impossible with man is possible with God. So he runs towards his giant. He just runs straight at it and says, let's go. And he hits him first time. How good is that? I reckon even he was shocked, to be honest. He hits him first time. And I'm sure you've all heard the question asked, why did he have 5 stones then? And everybody says, because Goliath had 4 brothers. Nonsense. I don't think that's it. There's thousands of stones in the creek. If you've got more brothers, go get some more stones. Do you know what I think it was? I think it's as simple as this. If I miss him the first time, I'll go again. And if I miss him the second time, I'll go again. I've done this a while, and by the 5th shot, trust me, my eye will be in. Right? Maybe he wasn't expecting an easy ride. He wasn't expecting God to carry the stone through the air. I reckon he thought, I'll take 5, and if I miss a couple of times, not a problem, I'll get my eye in. It will, I've never missed 5 times in a row. That's never happened. So I'm good to go. I think he knew he was being realistic, and he's going, you know what? I got this. I know that God's going to give me the victory. And verse 50 says, so David triumphed over the Philistine with sling and stone, without a sword in his hand, and he struck the Philistine. God was in this. That's a miracle right there. Besides, I don't think it is possible to beat Goliath using his weapons. He's a specialist with those weapons, right? He's covered in armor head to toe. He's got a shield so big he has to have a bloke carry it in front of him. You can't beat the enemy with his weapons. You can't use stealing to overcome financial stress. You can't use adultery to overcome a failing marriage. You can't use lies and gossip to try to get people to give their hearts to the Lord, or entertainment or any of that. There's so many, we can't use that. The weapons that we fight with are powerful for pulling down strongholds. They are different. They are different. God, by the way, is a lateral thinker. He says, here, love your enemies, bless those who curse you. Do something unexpected. How many people remember that first Indiana Jones movie? When he's there and this guy jumps out and he's got this sword and he's a master swordsman. You remember that? And and Indiana just pulls out his gun and shoots him, right? That's like God saying, yeah, forget the sword, just shoot the guy, right? And we've got weapons that, like, we're generous when we're financially tight. When we're sad, we remember eternity. We can experience joy. We've got a promise from God for every situation. That gives God glory. So I want to finish with this last point. Thanks, Marcello. Your success, you getting victory in your valley, will inspire everyone else. Look at this. Verse 51 says, so David ran and stood over Goliath. He took the Philistine's sword, drew it from his sheath. After he killed him, he cut his head off with the sword. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran. Then the men of Israel and Judah surged forward with a shout, and they pursued the Philistines to the entrance of Gath and to the gates of Ekron. Their dead were strewn along the Shaaraim road to Gath and Ekron. When the Israelites returned from chasing the Philistines, they plundered their camp. David took the Philistines' head and he brought it into Jerusalem. He put the Philistines' weapons in his own tent. See, the whole army, all of us, surged forward because they saw one kid win a powerful victory in his valley. And it lifted their faith and it inspired everyone. Inspired them to fight. Notice, number one, they ran into a valley that they were previously afraid of. And number two, the enemy fled when they saw their confidence and faith. See, when you win a battle, when you win a personal battle, you step out boldly, for example, and pray for somebody or overcome an addiction or overcome personal fears, it inspires us. That's what this is here for. That's why we love to hear it. Share it with us. God did something. Sometimes you can be a little long-winded, but apart from that, we want to hear it, right? Like, come on, people, 45 seconds. But, honestly, it is so good to hear it. And I want to point out, there's this verse you've probably never read before, but from that day on, the people of Israel were never afraid of the descendants of Anak again. Never afraid of them. I'll read this to you. You'll love this passage. This is from 1 Chronicles 20. So this is a bit further on. Verse 4 says, "In the course of time, war broke out with the Philistines, again, at Gezer. At that time, Sibbecai, the Hushathite, killed Sippai, one of the descendants of the Raphaites, and the Philistines were subjugated." So they're the giants, right? Those decisions. So he's killed him too. In another battle with the Philistines, Elhanan, son of Jair, killed Lami, the brother of Goliath the Git, who had a spear with a shaft like a weaver's rod. In still another battle which took place at Gath, there was a huge man with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all, just in case you didn't know how to count. He also was descended from Rapha. When he taunted Israel, Jonathan, son of Shimei, David's brother, killed him. These were the descendants of Rapha in Gath, and they all fell at the hands of David and his men. When you win, everybody wins. And God does something amazing. So when you charge into your valley, full of faith and confidence and well prepared, the enemy will run. You just need to know who's with us. And the result, of course, is that they plundered the camp, which is souls. It's getting people saved, getting people in touch with their Creator. So that's it. Today, what I want to do, we've got a great prayer team, as I always say. There's always people with amazing connection to God, our prayer team. They would love to pray with you. Some of this stuff that I've been talking about has stirred things up in you. Come and get some prayer. Don't be afraid. Come down and say, I need to face this. Could you help me? Could you pray for me? They'll pray for you. That doesn't mean it's the valley. They're just getting you ready. They're getting you ready. They're praying for you. We're with you. They'll pray for you this week as you go into your valley and sort out whatever it is that's been holding you back. So I want to encourage you, come forward if you need some prayer today. Otherwise, have an amazing week. We'll see you throughout the week, no doubt, and also on Sunday. But God bless you. Get onto Prime. By the way, if you don't have Prime, it's the cheapest of the streaming services. $60 a year, real cheap. And it's got both The Chosen and The House of David on it now, so probably worth it. So God bless you. Have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week.